I did not want to talk about the trial, but y'all, is something that needs to be said about this whole situation. Hi, welcome to JOA. If you're new to my channel, I'd really appreciate it if you do subscribe and you click the bell. Come on, y'all, help your boy get to 34,000 subscribers. You heard me? Click subscribe, click that bell. Patreon.com/JOA. Icebreaker question from me to you is, why do white people get so pissed off when we talk about race relations, when it comes to police brutality, when it comes to the real estate industry, when it comes to getting jobs, when it comes to anything and everything being in a world full of white Supras, because they are so intimidated by the POCs, people of color and African American people community? Why do y'all get so derailed about it? Because y'all will never know how it feels, because you were born into this world as white. So you just got to sit there and listen and actually pick up a book and study something outside of the little religious school you went to that didn't cater to that for yourself. So open that damn book. I want you guys to watch this clip, and I'm going to come back with some more.
Or an indication of your guilt. Meaning they can't say he didn't get up and defend himself, so equate your silence with guilt. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. Now, you also understand that you can waive that right and testify. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
You understand that if you chose not to testify, or if you did in fact testify, you would be subject to cross-examination by the state of Minnesota?
Yes.
You understand that if you were cross-examined by the state, we could not attempt to limit the scope of your testimony. The state would be given broad latitude to ask you questions. Do you understand that?
Yes, yes.
We've had this conversation repeatedly, correct?
Correct.
I have repeatedly advised you that this is your decision and your decision alone, right?
Correct.
I have advised you, and we have gone back and forth on the matter, would be kind of an understatement, right?
Yes, it is.
But after a lengthy meeting last night, we had some further discussion, agreed?
Correct.
And have you made a decision today whether you intend to testify or whether you intend to invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege?
I will invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege today.
Mr. Chauvin, I'm going to ask you directly because the decision whether or not to testify, take this off, is entirely yours. In other words, it's a personal right. Mr. Nelson makes a lot of the decisions in trial, but one he cannot make for you is whether or not you testify. And he can give you advice, and you can take that advice or reject that advice. But the decision ultimately has to be yours and not his. Is this your decision not to testify?
It is, Your Honor.
All right. Do you have any questions about your right to remain silent or to testify on your own behalf?
Not at this time, I don't.
All right. Has anyone promised anything or threatened you in any way to keep you from testifying?
No promises or threats, Your Honor.
Do you feel that your decision not to testify is a voluntary one on your behalf?
Yes, it is.
Now, in addition to that, I'm convinced then that this is your personal decision and that you are aware of your rights, but there is a jury instruction that may be read to the jury. This, again, is the one that you get to weigh in on. It's not for your lawyer to make the decision. Again, he can give you advice, and I don't want to know what the advice is, but you can accept the advice or reject the advice as to whether or not to give this instruction. If you would like, I can read this instruction to the jury. It's titled, Defendant's Right Not to Testify. The state must convince you by evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of the crime charged. The defendant has no obligation to prove innocence. The defendant has the right not to testify. This right is guaranteed by the federal and state constitutions. You should not draw any inference from the fact that the defendant has not testified in this case. Do you understand that instruction?
Yes, Your Honor.
Would you like that read to the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you had enough time to talk to Mr. Nelson about whether that's a good idea or not?
I have, Your Honor.
All right. And so I will read that to the jury on your request.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else regarding the defense case before we proceed to talk about rebuttal? All right. We'll have you rest in front of the jury then, and we could actually take the microphone back. Ms. Voss, thank you. Thank you.
So during when this first reported that we all saw, there was somebody that worked at the club with George Floyd that came out and said that George Floyd and Derek Chauvin knew each other. And then I was reading just before I got on this video, and the guy that claimed they knew each other came back and he told CBS News that they really didn't know each other. He mistook George Floyd for another man. Okay, how you misinterpret a tall George Floyd? Okay, all black people don't look alike. All right. So I don't believe the story per se. The man, the former employee at the club that switched his story, was also a security guard at the club along with George Floyd and Derek Chauvin, and he is saying that George Floyd did not want to work with Derek Chauvin because Derek had this aggressive behavior. So when it came to them two interacting, the man that came out, Mr. Piney, if I'm saying his name wrong, I'm sorry, always intervened between the two just so they can keep a professional take in the environment and so they won't cause a scene at the club, and because they can make sure that everything runs smoothly. I personally feel his second time around telling the network that they didn't really know each other, that he was the one that worked alongside George Floyd, is simply a lie. I don't know what you're doing or what you're saying, because how can you confuse a tall George Floyd with somebody else? Like, who did you confuse George Floyd to? I didn't see that in the article, okay? And second of all, it's pretty obvious that this situation is personal. Like, you don't just kneel on somebody's neck for 9 minutes long. You know where they learn that stuff from? Overseas, okay? You know where they learn that stuff from? The Israeli army overseas. They do that all the time, the Palestinians over there. And that just basically means that you are a piece of shit and you're not human and you don't mean anything to this world and you are equivalent to being something thrown into a trash can. And at this moment in time, I am ashamed to be a part of the United States of America. I'm highly ashamed that we need to go to trial. I understand you are innocent to proven guilty, but he is guilty. There is a video out there showing that he is guilty with his knee on the neck. This is first-degree murder, okay? This was intentional murder. Derek Chauvin had a connection with George Floyd. This case, I'm not a lawyer, but this case right here is strong than something that happens with you just getting pulled over, not knowing the cop and being mistreated. Not only did Derek Chauvin know George Floyd, but he also was mistreated. So this was intentional murder. This is not equivalent to just being stopped by a cop and them just saying that instead of them getting tasered, they were on accident, they were shot, as that white woman said that resigned after the whole debacle and the mistakes that she did with being 26 years on the force. Like, nah, dog. Like, this man needs to be hanged. We need to go back to them hanging days. He needs to be lynched. That's what he needs to be, on a tree, hanged. Okay, don't waste my tax dollars to make him in a prison. Like, look, I'm in a moment, and I'm a responsible citizen of the United States of America. I filed my tax returns on time, and I need this man to be hung. He don't need to be in prison. He need to have the same feeling, the same autopsy that George Floyd had. He had lacked oxygen in his brain. He needs to experience that, like now and like today. And this is a sensitive topic. I'm not watching the trial to fullest extent, but I just wanted to have you guys know that watch this, that there's no remorse shown in this video. It's as if he did nothing wrong, and it's that smirk on his face that I just want to pip up and slap myself. Put me in that courtroom. Anyways, y'all, a lot of white people get on my nerves with this racist bullshit. Please do subscribe and click the bell so you'll be the first to know when I upload. Make sure you answer my icebreaker question. I'd also appreciate your support on patreon.com/JOAJOA. Thank you so much. Deuces. Yay!